What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich. We got a TWT weekend. First up, I got my guy, Shiver Me Timbo, Tasteful Tides, Tim Buell. How you doing today, Tim?
Yeah, I'm doing well, TJ. It's good to have the TWT crew back in action. Haven't seen Will in quite some time. Glad he's back. So excited to break this slate down with you guys. And we definitely have, on this small slate, there is definitely quite a bit of news that we need to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of news we are waiting on yet. Potentially some that could come before lock, maybe not. Maybe some edges to be had by waiting for this news, but we'll get into that. We got lots of time. We got an hour helping us break it all down. We got the Chief, Will Priester. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Glad to come on. It's been a while since we, like you said, you had the TWT crew for the weekend, so I'm actually pretty excited about hanging out with you guys. For the slate, but just in general, we all haven't done a show together in a while, so hopefully that means massive winnings are on the way.
Couldn't agree more. I'm excited to dive into this with you guys. Maybe more excited to chat about the slate with my friends than I am actually about the slate itself. But like we said, potential edges to be had tonight. We're waiting on a lot of news. Jimmy Butler, but most importantly, Memphis. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, to name a few. This game comes an hour after lock. And Tim, this is really going to impact how we want to go about our slate today, because we got one game starting an hour early, and then all the rest of the games, 4 games after that, with all of the news in the later games.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you run optimals, you're getting quite a bit of this Brooklyn-Detroit game. You know, there's currently right now, at least in the DraftKings first optimal, you're getting to 3 pieces of that game. So it's kind of an interesting spot because that game would be okay in a vacuum, but Memphis would be just absolutely crush it in terms of value if some of those guys sat, which would absolutely just kind of just like wipe this Brooklyn-Detroit game right off the map. So it's kind of like, what is your risk tolerance? Like, what's your availability this evening? Because like you could just say, I want to get a bunch of this Brooklyn-Detroit game because I don't have time to fool around. But I mean, that's not the optimal way to play DFS. So I'm hoping that this news comes after the 7:00 lock. That way people build into that Brooklyn-Detroit game and can't get to as much of this really, really strong value for Memphis.
Couldn't agree more. I think my plan as it stands right now, I'm building a single entry lineup today. I'm running 150 as well. And I think if we get the Memphis news before lock, I will play Brooklyn and Detroit. I will keep them in my pool. I'll mix them throughout my lineups. But if we don't get that news before lock, I'm just going to X them out entirely to ensure that I have maximum lineup flexibility throughout the rest of my night so that I can adapt. And I'm going to be utilizing the projections, and you can get those projections with Combo Pro, especially if you're playing multiple DFS sports. You can check out this sweet deal for a limited time. Get your first month of Combo Pro for $79.99. That's just $15 more than PGA Premium, $5 more than NBA Premium. Talk about a value play. Plus, we also have our Props and Pick'em package here and available for a discount. Props and Pick'em package features daily prop picks and fantasy pick'em selections from many of your favorite RotoGrinders experts. Plus, we're knocking 50% off the price of your first month when you sign up at the link below, right down there in the description. And you can take those props, bring them over I don't think that's an old read. Last one is if you want some access to some of the most advanced NBA data in the market, get shot quality projections for Lineup HQ. RotoGrinders.com/shot quality. You can get 1 month access for $40 or yearly for $200. Just want to give it a test run? You can try it with a 3-day pass for $9.99. Will, how many lineups are you playing tonight, and how are you planning on handling this Brooklyn-Detroit game? Feel free to lead us into who you like, if anyone, in this first game.
I'm actually just playing one lineup tonight. Going full-blown single entry. So I'm playing in like the $40 on DraftKings, and some other stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not super heavy tonight, but I did plan to not play a whole bunch of lineups. So that's what I'm doing. In this first game, I think I felt someone say about the only person they were playing is Killian Hayes. And, man, I have to agree with them. If I'm playing anyone, that's it. Killian, I mean, he's picking up – let me refresh the ownership here because I don't want to. But I think it was around 27% at
22%, 23% on DK right now.
22 on DK. Yeah, I'm refreshing. But, Killian's about the only person I want to play in this from the Brooklyn side. Let me say that. Now, and I saw someone else say this in the chat. I am pretty high on Cade Cunningham tonight. I've been high on Cade Cunningham all year. And so when I'm looking at, these types of ownership numbers for Cade, we've got him projected for around 7% on a really small slate. I think that's massive tournament upside leverage. So I will have Cade, and I will probably have Killian in my build here, most likely. But other than that, those are the only guys I'm playing from that particular game. I'm not playing anyone else. I've X'd them all out, but that's just more so because I do that when I'm trying to figure out, am I going to multi-in or am I going to play single entry? Tonight I'm playing single entry, but those are still the only two guys I'm playing from that game.
The toughest part about both of those plays today, I think, is just how strong point guard is. And so especially if we get the news before lock of what's going on with Memphis, I do want to get over the field on Cade just because he is projecting for 7.5% on DraftKings, 1%, 2%, 3% potentially on FanDuel where he's pricey. So I would want to get over the field on him in general, but with how strong this point guard position is potentially going to be, with the aggressive need to want to lock in Scottie Pippen Jr. at 3.4K at the point guard position if John Morant is out, especially if Morant, Bane, and Kennard are all out. Tim, this point guard position is going to be valuable today. What are you going to do with Brooklyn and Detroit?
Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping that people do lock in Killian Hayes, and then we get that Memphis news afterwards because Scottie Pippen is just such a far superior play.
Guys, why not just play all three? I'm just curious, Tim. So while we're on Scottie,
then there's Kyrie and Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the Cade Cunningham play.
The Cade Cunningham thing I like a lot. The Hayes one is I'm torn on him too because it's like he could be the best value on the slate, or if we break that news after lock, I may not want to play him.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't really want to play Killian Hayes that much, but I mean, I absolutely love the Cade call, especially if he's going to be under 10%. I think that's a fantastic GPP play. But yeah, I mean, this point guard position is just going to end up being so valuable if John and Bane sit. So yeah, I mean, Killian Hayes is that one piece that's kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to figure out right now because yes, he is a strong points per dollar play, but I think he could end up just losing a lot of that to Scottie Pippen potentially.
Strong position today. Lots of point guards, lots of centers. It's going to be fun, despite this only being a 5-game slate, as Chris Longo's mentioning in chat as well. Tyrese Maxey looking like a pretty good tournament option today. You got Steph on the slate. It's going to be a fun day. I'm happy I'm playing lots of lineups today, so I don't have to make that choice. Just in the one, I get to build around with a few of these different guys. But it is a type of night, I think, where you're maybe considering on DraftKings not a 2-center night, but a 3-point guard night, like Will was saying, because there are so many of these options. I think we're going to want to get 3 of them because of how strong they are. Let's hold off just in case on San Antonio and Memphis, just in case we get some of this Memphis news here as we lead up to lock. And let's talk Sacramento and Houston. We got a 4.5-point spread in this one. Houston is favored. Not a single positive RG value on FanDuel for either of these teams. Tim, I'll start with you for Houston and Sacramento. Who do you like?
Yeah, definitely. I do not have much at all of interest in Sacramento. This is a pretty tough matchup for them. I don't really like the pricing very much. I mean, I guess you can always like maybe take shots on Zach LaVine in large field or like Malik Monk, but really in a 3 max, I'm not getting to any Sacramento. On the Houston side, I think like unless you wanted to take cheap shots on maybe a Dylan Brooks because he's very, very affordable. Şengün is always fine in GPPs. I think it's a decent spot for him. We don't have, centers on exactly like a super loaded position tonight. So the raw points that you get from him could be a separator. And so I do like him in GPPs.
Will, how about you? You getting anybody on this game? On the Sacramento side of things, I don't necessarily know I want to fade them outright, but definitely no more than one Sacramento player. LaVine, DeRozan. I feel like these guys look fine, not necessarily top targets, but decent. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about Sacramento. I don't think I'm only playing one lineup. I won't have anyone from there. From Houston, I do have some slight interest in Alperen Şengün, but his ownership's a lot higher than I thought it was going to be today. I thought he might have kind of, not been as high on DraftKings, but definitely higher than I wanted to be. So I'm probably not going to play him either. I mean, we've got him around 19.18 in the in lineup HQ, but I'll just say 20%. A little bit higher than I thought he was going to be. So I'm probably fading him for what it's worth.
What about the Houston side for you, Tim? You getting any of these guys at all?
The Houston side?
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks a little bit. I think he's maybe worth a shot just due to his price tag and he's small forward, power forward eligibility. And then at Şengün, I guess. I think he's a decent center play. Opportunity cost is not exactly massive at center tonight. So I do think he's fine. He's a completely valid tournament play.
I like that call there. I have some slight interest in Jalen Green, even with Fred VanVleet back here, but I'm not going to get to a lot of these guys. I can't imagine I'm getting more than 10, 15, 20% tops more of Şengün, and then probably not too much of either of these teams. I think I might go maximum 1 for Houston, maximum 1 Sacramento, because all the other games on the slate, I think I like a little bit more. Let's pivot over to Milwaukee and Dallas. Gary Trent's questionable. We don't really care. PJ Washington's questionable. We think he's probably going to play. Memphis could end up from a value perspective for sure being the most interesting. But Milwaukee and Dallas, I think this is going to be the most fun to watch of the slate. And I think this might be my favorite for DFS as well. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, I do like this game in particular. Really heavy on Giannis tonight. Definitely a top play for me. But I mean, he will be owned, obviously. It's not like he's sneaking up on anyone, which is another reason why I really like Cade tonight. Once again, I know we're not talking about Cade specifically, but that's another reason I really like Cade. I feel like everyone's playing Giannis, no one's playing Cade. So, I mean, yeah, everyone's playing Giannis, no one's playing Cade, but I think I can get both of them tonight. I do like Dame also. If I decided that I was going to go the Dame route for whatever reason, I probably would not play Giannis. So, but once again, I do like this game. Pretty nice total for the slate, considering we got our lowest game is at 215, our highest game is projected at 242.5. This game's right at 228. So, fairly nice total here. And once again, Giannis kind of stands out to me. Our projections are kind of under on Brook Lopez, but Brook Lopez is playing big minutes right now,
right
across the board, especially with not Gary Harris.
Bobby
Portis. God, Bobby Portis. Thank you. Still suspended. So I like Brook Lopez tonight, but also like Moses Brown on the other side. So that's going to be a pain point for me in terms of which one of these guys I decide to get in. And quite frankly, if I decide to get in both of those guys, then I think I'm going to automatically have a different build, because I do feel like there might be some 3-point guard lineups out there tonight. I'm considering Brook Lopez and Moses Brown in the same lineup currently.
Love the Brook Lopez call. Wrote him up as my favorite contrarian play on the expert survey today. Think he's a awesome awesome tournament play at low ownership on both sites. Tim, Milwaukee and Dallas. This one's a lot of fun. What do you think about this rule I was fiddling with here in the group section? At least one of Dame or Giannis in every lineup tonight.
Yeah, I really don't mind that at all, and it really doesn't matter with the Memphis news with this game, because if we do get all that value, you can easily jam in Giannis and get to any other stud that you want, like a Cade or like a Curry or a Kyrie or like anyone really. So I mean, it would become all out full stars and scrubs. So I mean, getting to the Bucks is going to be, I think, a really, really smart thing to do tonight. Giannis is definitely the best raw point play on the slate. I think we have him rejected around 33%. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets higher than that. And if we get all that value from Memphis, it will push higher because he's just going to be so easy to play. But I think he's a really good chalk. I've heard some chatter. I think you just mentioned Brook Lopez, right, TJ? Yeah. I think he's a fantastic play, and I think Will mentioned him also. I think that's a really good play, and I don't think that he's not going to be owned. So I think getting to a couple pieces of Milwaukee, even playing like a 2-2 in this game, I think is completely fine. And yeah, I mean, I think Kyrie is a really, really solid run back in this matchup. Moses Brown is fine. I don't know. We currently don't have him really projected for any ownership, but I've just heard so much chatter about him. I wonder if he does end up getting some ownership tonight.
I was trying to make my builds earlier in the day, planning for Ja to be out. And I'm having a tough time just because there are so many power forward, centers, and point guards I would want to play. And so I want to play Scottie Pippen, Aldama, Jaren Jackson Jr., Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and eventually you just run out of spots for power forward, center, and point guard. And I'm just one short from getting away the team I wanted to get. I needed somebody like Killian Hayes or Scottie Pippen or Kyrie Irving or Damian Lillard, one of them, to have shooting guard eligibility, but couldn't make it work. Will, any last thoughts on the Dallas side of things before we switch over to Golden State, Philly?
I do think Max Christie could pop again, just randomly. He's 5,500. We've seen him go for 35, 40 fantasy points. It's definitely something that he could do, and I don't think he'll get a lot of ownership tonight because his past couple of games has been, in the low 20s, but he could also, pop tonight. So I think getting some of him, if you are multi-entering, I think it's a great idea.
Tim, what about a guy like Kyle Kuzma? How many lineups do you think you'd have to play to get to him?
6,200. Maybe I'd have him in like 1 out of 10, maybe 1 out of 15, something like that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to leave him in my pool here for 150, but don't think I'm going to be getting to anybody else on Milwaukee outside of Antetokounmpo, Lillard, and Lopez, and I love those three. But the only other guy I'm kind of considering is Kuzma, and that's going to be barely. I like Chiefs Max Christie call. I kind of feel like one of Christie, Thompson, or Marshall are going to have a good game. I just don't really know which one it's going to be. And so I'm going to be mixing in those guys as well, just because I do want to stack this one up as much as I can. Golden State at Philadelphia. Golden State's favored by 8.5 points in this one. Philadelphia is at home. Joel Embiid expected to be out for the rest of the season. Paul George was disappointing everybody. He was terrible. He was awful. Then he just put up a 50-piece last game. And so, Tim, I'll start with you. I'll ask, is Paul George back? Are you interested in playing some PG today? Or are you looking at that one game thinking maybe it's going to boost his ownership and you want to get out?
Here comes the Memphis news. Clark out. Williams out.
Ooh, I didn't even think Clark was on the injury report.
Yeah.
Laceration.
Yeah.
All right, keep refreshing. Where's the rest of it, Memphis? Don't give it to us. Hold off on the rest of it. Ja game time decision. Give us that.
Right. I'm probably not going to be playing Paul George. I think I'm going to be getting to Kelly Oubre at 6K. I completely understand that people want to play Paul George. I think he's a fine cash game play. I know that he did just put up a 50 spot and he's 7,200. But I'm hoping that I can look to other players in this kind of same price point. I don't really want to play Paul George. I don't really quite buy it that this team is fully engaged, and I'm not clicking on Paul George in single entry.
How about the rest of these Philly guys? I feel like Tyrese Maxey with the Kyries, the Dames, the Hayes, potentially Pippen, Cade Cunningham. Tyrese Maxey is going to go very forgotten in the last game of the night. What do you think about him and the rest of this Philly team?
I mean, he's kind of risky because I like Kyrie a lot more, and Kyrie is not going to be super chalky, I don't think. So I'd much rather play Kyrie over Maxey, but I get the thought. It's not a horrible play, but I'm really just going to be sticking to Oubre for my exposure here from Philly.
Will, who do you like on the Philadelphia side of things, and then lead us into Golden State?
Man, I want to play Paul George because I want to believe in him at this price. So that's the thing, right? It's not like it's his price. And so if he went for 45 at this price, like we don't even need him to go for 60. If he went for 45 at this price tonight, he's probably optimal. I just don't know. You hear Tim say, I don't even know if this team is engaged. Like that's like the other side of DFS, right? Trying to balance the projections with the actual intel about the team. I don't know, man. I will say this. I think if you're playing multiple entries like our good friend TJ, I would have some Paul George in there. If not, then I'm not going to have him in my single entry team, I don't think. And I am waiting on some Memphis news to kind of sway me a little bit, but definitely won't have Paul George in my single entry team for what it's worth. I'm okay with Oubre, perfectly fine with Maxey. I'm actually okay with Gershon Yabusele. We've seen some big games from him, and so that's more of a tournament play. Like, do I think do I think he's great? No, but do I think he's another guy that could get you 40? Yes. 40 when nobody's playing him. So that once again, that's just me kind of thinking outside the box in tournaments on the small slate where everybody's going to be loading up on a lot of the same value.
Tim, we got our wish. Ja Morant and Desmond Bane game time decisions. Now we just need at least one of them, hopefully Ja Morant, to be out in order for the fate of that first game to work. I'm thinking Ja's not going to play because of the midday downgrade, but it being a game-to-time decision does worry me a little bit that I might get got and the best value might be in Brooklyn, Detroit, and I'm loading up on these later games, and it won't benefit me here. But Golden State side, who do you like, Tim?
Yeah, so Golden State, we got to see what happens with Jimmy Butler. I think he's currently questionable. If you were to miss, Quentin Post would end up being a pretty strong value play. He's already a pretty strong value as it is. So that's a position to keep your eye out for, because if Butler were to miss, I think Post would be a really, really strong value play on this slate. And really, though, I mean, I hate that Draymond has lost his power forward eligibility. So I'm not really crazy about playing him at center.
I do like him today, though. I feel like he's been pretty steady.
Yeah, I mean he's fine. He's not a horrible play. I don't know. I like Steph over Maxey, but I still like guys like Dame and Kyrie over Curry. So Curry's fine for GPPs. If you wanted to match the field with him at 10% or 15%, I think that's okay. But he's not somebody that I'm going to be getting to in a single entry or a 3-max setting. I think the only play for me from Golden State potentially is Quentin Post.
Yeah, I do think Post is likely the guy that goes into the starting lineup if Jimmy Butler doesn't play. But it would make guys like Podziemski, Buddy Hield, Moses Moody all more interesting. I think there's a chance it's Hield that steps into the starting lineup. I think probably would be Post. Chris Longo asking if you can play Guy Santos if he starts. I don't think he would start, but what do you think of guys like Santos and Payton if Jimmy Butler doesn't play?
I don't think that's quite going to be. I don't think they're going to be quite strong enough values. I mean, we do have a if Butler were to sit, and the only really strong value increase is Quentin Post. Really, nobody else sticks out in the event of Butler sitting in this game. Curry projects a little bit better. Pod's a little bit better. Hield only slightly better. So it's really that doesn't really shake up this lineup that much if Butler sits.
I think playing a lot of lineups like myself where they become maybe somewhat interesting is I'm building for John Bain to be out. And if those guys happen to play both of them and there's not as much Memphis value, then maybe I mix in some of those guys as, very contrarian ways to get different, cross my fingers, close my eyes, and hope for the best. But outside of that, agree with you 100%. Last game, not the last game of the slate, but the last game we're covering since we were waiting for a little bit of news there. We have San Antonio at Memphis. Ja Morant and Desmond Bane are game time decisions. Nothing on Luke Kennard yet. He's still listed as questionable. We got Brandon Clark out. We got Vince Williams out. Starting here with you, Tim. San Antonio, Memphis. I mean, we can talk about Memphis all day long, so I guess feel free to get the San Antonio side out quick. I don't think I really care about anybody. I do like Fox, that you can play him at shooting guard. Him, Keldon, maybe Castle, I think are fine, but nobody's really a priority.
Yeah, definitely not priorities. You named the two guys that I was going to mention. Would be De'Aaron Fox because he does have that shooting guard eligibility, and I don't mind Keldon Johnson. So those would be my two guys from San Antonio. I will say, even with Morant and Bane projected in, Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey are project very, very well. So those two guys are firmly in play, regardless of any other news that we get for Memphis. Then, I mean, they would rate out outstanding, especially Jaren Jackson would rate out outstanding if Morant and Bane were to miss. But he's already in the first optimal on both FanDuel and DraftKings. So, I mean, Jaren Jackson is a really strong play as it is. In GPPs, don't forget about Santi Aldama at 5,400. He's a really, really strong usage player off of the bench. So if they're going to be shorthanded, a couple more minutes for him, he could end up smashing that $5,400 price tag. But I did just want to note that to everybody that, Jaren Jackson and Zach Edey are already really, really awesome plays.
Chief, we got San Antonio, we got Memphis. You going to get to anybody on the San Antonio side and then break down what you're going to do with Memphis? Highest team total on the slate and the most value.
Yeah, San Antonio is still such a mixed bag, which, still, man, prayers up for Coach Popovich, who is definitely not coming back this season and probably is done with coaching, I would assume. Maybe he comes back in some honorary capacity for a game or something like that. But this team is still a hodgepodge of talent. I mean, just an odd collection of talent. And they're playing so many guys. So I'm just not thrilled about playing anyone from San Antonio for what it's worth. I wish I could play De'Aaron Fox. It feels like De'Aaron Fox should be just, out here smashing every night, and that's just not the case. So I'm just not thrilled about San Antonio. Other side of this game, Memphis. Totally agree with Tim on Santi Aldama. He was definitely a guy I was going to mention. Jaren Jackson was also a guy that I was going to mention because while the value itself, like a Scottie Pippen and Aldama, even Jalen Wells would probably pop a lot more if Bane and Morant sit. The big benefactor here, or the big one, is Jaren Jackson, who the projection on him would probably increase, I would assume, about 45 fantasy points. What do you say, Tim? if Ja and Morant send, well, let me be a little bit more conservative. Maybe they have him at 43.5. But either way, like he's projecting well right now, and it's only going to get better if they sit. So
yeah, I mean, it would go up to about 47 points for a projection.
Well, see, I was even under that. Wow. So there you go. Like that. Now he's in. When I say must play, I'm saying based on projection, situation, that's about as must play as it gets at 7,700. So I think Jaren Jackson will become a top play on the slate. And then that for sure, like if the Memphis news comes in the way that we think, it's for sure going to force me into a Cade Giannis build, which I still don't think will be incredibly popular because I don't see that. But that's for sure what I'm doing if Morant and Bane sit. And I'm going to build for that on the back end. I hope I get it by 7:30 or so. And then I'll completely build. But I'll have Cade in. And I guess my big thing I got to decide is, am I going to play Killian Hayes or not? So those are my big decisions. I think that's good to talk about just for me personally. That's my big decision at 7. Cade is going in. Does Killian Hayes go with him? And then do I ride it out to the end? Or do I just play Cade and fake Killian? That's my big decision as we approach live.
Well, let's start diving into the position by position of it all. We'll get questions after that. I'll go to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord first, YouTube chat second. YouTube, smash that like button for us. And Derek Ringering bringing something up in chat that I wanted to note as well. Fred VanVleet is expected to have no restrictions tonight. I wouldn't play him in 10 lineups. I wouldn't play him in 20 lineups. But in 150, I don't think it's super crazy to just sprinkle a little Fred VanVleet at a cheap price tag. And if he goes for 45 points in 36 minutes in his first game back, I think that would be a super. Like, you're going to get him for 1% or less tonight on a super small slate. And so I don't hate the idea of taking that shot in tournaments. Let's go position by position, starting on FanDuel. Tim, I'll throw it to you first. Point guard, who are the cash game plays? Who do you like at that position?
Yeah, so I'm kind of debating really between 3 different point guards in cash. Dame, Kyrie, and De'Aaron Fox. I think they're all really, really strong, fantastic spend-up options at the point guard spot. Fox, you can play at shooting guard. Killian Hayes, at least in cash games, I think is viable at 5K. I still kind of just want to wait, and because I'd much rather play Scottie Pippen Jr. So I don't know really what to do. I'm probably going to end up fading Killian Hayes all around, including in cash. But I think you should probably have one of Dame or Kyrie in cash, and then hopefully you can get to Scottie Pippen also. And then I think in GPPs we talked about it, but I don't mind. We talked about Cade Cunningham. I don't mind him. Fred VanVleet's only 6,800 on FanDuel. It's a pretty decent price tag. So I think you're right, TJ. I might get to him in 1 out of 20, maybe get 5% of him, because I do think that price tag can beat that price tag. Chris Paul at 5,900, I think he's a pretty decent GPP play as well on FanDuel.
Will, who do you like? FanDuel point guard.
Cade, 10-6. I am more likely to fade Killian on FanDuel than I am on DraftKings for what it's worth. Like on FanDuel, where he's 5K, and that's probably a little bit more opportunity cost. I don't mind, like Tim said, get into a Chris Paul or something like that. Either way, a decision is going to have to be made. But I don't hate him there. I think, I feel like Maxi's going to get left out in the cold on FanDuel. And I do like Cade more than Maxi. Don't get me wrong. But if you're just asking me straight up, how, from a tournament perspective, I think Maxi's really sneaky in tournaments tonight. I'll just leave it at that.
I like it. Take me to the shooting guard position.
Yeah, so at shooting guard, I don't really like this position on FanDuel. Let me just say, I feel like everybody's slightly overpriced. Like, Monk is 7,900. He's fine. Levine is 7,800. On FanDuel, I feel like I'd lean more towards a Jalen Green if I was going to play one of these more expensive guys. On the cheap end, I'd probably still get to a Max Christie or something like that. I know that Tim mentioned Dylan Brooks, like he's 4,900. So like that's a guy that I think on FanDuel could for sure, be a guy that pays off. And then once again, we're down to this Memphis stuff. If all these guys sit, like if Kennard sat, Bain sat, and Morant sat, then I think Jalen Wells is going to creep into the conversation at 4,200. But that's more of an if-then type situation. But I still want to include him in the thought process.
Tim, how about you? Who do you like shooting guard?
Yeah, so with that most recent Memphis news, we got Jalen Wells at 4,200, projected for 28 minutes. I think he's a really, really strong value. Really too cheap. Yeah, I think he should be in your cash games. Kelly Oubre at 6,800. I really like him tonight. So I think he's a really, really strong play. De'Aaron Fox, obviously, he's shooting guard eligible, so I don't mind him. I talked about Dylan Brooks a little bit. I think he's fine as well. I don't know. I do agree with Chief though. Like shooting guard on FanDuel is pretty ugly. If Luke Kennard plays, I think he's completely fine as well. I wouldn't play him at point guard, but at shooting guard. That way, maybe you can play Wells and Kennard. One at shooting guard, one at small forward. I think that's a decent strategy. I think Devin Vassell for GPPs at 6K is a decent play as well. But this position isn't really that good.
All right, taking a small forward.
Yeah. So again, if you're not playing Jalen Wells at shooting guard, you can play him at small forward. He's really, really cheap. So I think he's a strong play for cash.
What's Jimmy Jackson on FanDuel? Is he just power forward? What's his price?
He is power forward, small forward. He's 4K.
Okay, not quite as cheap as DK, but I think he's somewhat interesting here. We're projecting him for over 20 minutes now.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fine play for GPPs. I do like that call. Another cheapie kind of is for GPPs is Keldon Johnson, just because I really like that matchup, against Memphis. So I think he's a strong GPP play. Same thing with Najee Marshall. So there are guys that you can get to at small forward that are relatively cheap. PJ Washington, if he plays, is a really, really strong points per dollar play. He's going to be very, very highly owned on FanDuel, probably on DK as well if he does play. And then Paul George, he's currently popping optimals, kind of like that's up to your own take, your own risk tolerance on how you feel about Paul George. I'm personally going to be fading him in single entry, but he just rates out really well, and that's what you want cash games is a strong medium projection. So I mean, it makes sense for George to be popping in optimals, but I personally think I'm going to be fading him.
Will, who do you like FanDuel small forward?
Oh man, like I feel like it's a lot of the kind of these hybrid guys that I like at shooting guard. But I don't think I'm playing Asar Thompson tonight. I don't want to play Levine. I don't want to play DeRozan. I don't plan to play Paul George. I do feel like Oubre is way more expensive on FanDuel, even though he could go get 40. I haven't played Tobias Harris, I think, all year over 6K. So definitely not starting now. So I'm down in this 5K range again. Christie, Grimes. I don't want to play Grimes. Dylan Brooks. I feel like I would possibly play Taurean Prince over some of these expensive guys. And that's saying a lot. So it's another ugly position that I'm planning to just spin down on and pray.
All right, take me to power forward.
All right, good. Power forward. Plug in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Next position. I'm just kidding, but I am playing Giannis. No way I'm not playing him tonight. I do think there are some borderline guys here, like an Altima, Once again, Yabusele, I don't mind a Yabusele, just as a kind of a tournament reach. I know somebody mentioned Santos. I don't think there's any way I get to Santos here. But those are kind of my main guys there. And I think I might just play Jaren Jackson anyway if those guys get ruled out, because the projection of 47 fantasy points, that'd still be great. It's just he's a better play on DraftKings, but even on FanDuel, where he'll probably have lower ownership, I'd play him for sure at 8,600 with that type of projection.
All right, Tim, who do you like FanDuel power forward?
Yeah, you're 100% playing Giannis today. I think in all formats that's pretty easy. Jaren Jackson would be my next guy in. I think you can play those two together pretty easily because we already have enough value. If you wanted to get to some GPP pivots, Santi Aldama I think is a really strong play. I think you could play him at center also, just because power forward's pretty strong tonight and center isn't amazing tonight. So I think Santi Aldama at 5,900 is a really strong play. We kind of talked about Draymond a little bit at 6'6". He does have that power forward eligibility on FanDuel, so I don't mind him. And then again, Keldon Johnson, Najee Marshall, I have some interest in. And I think that's really about it.
All right, lead us to center, and then we will switch over to DraftKings.
Yeah, so Zach Edey seems to be the guy that's all over optimals right now, and it makes a lot of sense. He's 4,900. The San Antonio team has a really hard time protecting the rim with no Wemby, so I think Zach Edey is probably your guy in cash. Sengun at 8,700 is my spend up to be different. He's not going to be super contrarian, but I don't think he's going to be super chalk either. And then Day'Ron Sharpe is another really strong cheapy center at 5,100. I already talked about Aldama. We've talked about Brook Lopez as well. And on FanDuel, Brook Lopez isn't going to be owned at all. So if you want to take a shot on him, I think that's a really, really strong play. At 6,300, he's going to be, I'd say, not over 5%. He's not going to get over 5% ownership. So I think he's a really strong large field play.
All right, Will, FanDuel center, who you liking?
Yeah, love the Lopez call because he's going to be even lower on there. But I do plan on spinning down. It's Edey, it's Brown, and it's probably one of those guys for me. I think I'll reserve Post for DraftKings only.
All right, let's talk about DraftKings. It's coming down, 15 minutes left till lock, and we still don't have that Memphis news, so it's looking like we're going to have to wait until after. We got about 15 minutes left, so let's power through this DK pretty quick, then we'll take some questions. RotoGrinders Discord first. Then we'll go to the YouTube chat after that. YouTube, smash that like button. Will, who you like at DraftKings point guard?
I don't have any different thoughts.
Somebody who's got the initial CC.
Yep, I don't have any different thoughts. Give me Cade, give me Killian, give me Scottie Pippen Jr. if all those guys are out. Dame, Kyrie. If you're mass multi-owner, definitely think you need to get in some Maxey.
Tim, how about you? Who are the cash game plays? What do you like at point guard? Deebo Samuel has been traded to the Washington Commanders.
Wow. Yeah, so probably cash games. Like if you wanted to play it super safe, I'm fine. If you want to play Killian Hayes, and just make sure that you leave spots open that you can get to Scottie Pippen later in the night. I'm fine if you want to play Hayes in cash. Dame is probably the spend up in cash games at point guard. Kyrie would be right behind him. I think Curry's great for GPPs on a cash game play. Same thing with Cade. I think he's fine for GPPs. But yeah, I think we've already talked about this, but Fred VanVleet at 6,600, I think that's a decent play for large field stuff.
All right, take me to shooting guard. All right, what do you think of my strategy tonight as well for anyone who has shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings? I'm setting them a rule in lineup HQ that they cannot be played at point guard. They have to be played at shooting guard.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't mind that. Yeah, Kelly Oubre is definitely going to be your cash game team tonight, either at shooting guard or small forward. But he's a really strong play at 6K. I'm definitely going to be rostering him. Luke Kennard, if you were to play at 4K, I think he's a really, really strong value. Malik Beasley is like the only Piston that I would consider for cash, but I don't really want to build into that game. So I think he's okay for GPPs. Same thing with Keon Johnson. I think he's an all right tournament play, but I'm not going to get there in cash games. Yeah, but I mean this position, I don't know. It doesn't feel all that strong to me.
Will, who do you like at shooting guard?
Yeah, it's slim pickings because I really don't like the top of the shooting guard pool. Kelly Oubre is probably my favorite, what I would call stable play. Once again, I will talk about Max Christie, going back to him. If you want to play Klay Thompson and deal with that experiment, be my guest, fine, no problem. I know Keon Johnson was getting some traction, and he has been playing immensely. He's been playing really well, but I think I'll pass on him. Malik Beasley is the big differentiator, I think, for me, Tim. Where he's 5,600 on FanDuel, but 4,800 on DraftKings. That's a big difference there. So I do think on DraftKings, he's definitely a guy that you could get in. And then we're down to Memphis. Do these guys sit? Do I play Jalen Wells? That's kind of where I'm at.
All right, take me to small forward.
Yeah, so Paul George, 7,200 on DraftKings. I don't want to play him, but I do understand the value of him having more opportunity with Embiid out for the season. Even a guy like DeRozan at 7,100, tough matchup against Houston, but these guys are just a little bit cheaper on DraftKings. Back to Kelly Oubre, back to Max Christie, back to a guy like Klay Thompson, back to a guy like Malik Beasley. Then we're hitting the Dylan Brooks of the world. Back to Wells again. I feel like Wells is crossing over into everything. But those are kind of my guys. If I knew Gary Trent was going to play close to 30 minutes a game, I think I'd consider him tonight if he wasn't questionable was going to play, but I just don't think we can go there at this time.
All right. How about you, Tim? Who do you like at small forward?
Yeah, small forward. If you're not playing Kelly Oubre at shooting guard, you're playing him at small forward. If we knew Jimmy Butler was playing, I would like him.
PJ Washington is available, by the way. Sorry.
And limited to 25 to 30 minutes.
What did we have him projected for before? For
33.
minutes? Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm probably going to not play PJ Washington.
I'm definitely playing Moses Brown now.
Definitely like Moses Brown and Najee Marshall as well a little bit more.
Yeah, so a couple extra minutes will probably go to Moses Brown and Najee Marshall. Yeah, you definitely can't play PJ Washington now. I can't imagine. So that does change things a little bit. Yeah, so small forward, George is okay, I guess. He definitely rates out the best, but I'm not playing him.
Tim, I get it. It's like he's okay, I guess. That is the statement.
Right. I'm going to try and save at this position. I won't even mind GG Jackson, who's at 3,300. Projected to play 21 minutes. If you wanted to completely punt it, I wouldn't mind a Moses Moody either at 4,300. Keldon Johnson at 4,700. I like quite a bit. So yeah, I mean, I'm just that's just the one thing where I'm disagreeing with Optimals is I just don't really want to play Paul George in cash games.
All right, take me to small forward or power forward.
Yeah, so you're definitely playing Giannis somewhere in your lineup tonight, whether it be power forward or center. I think same thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. You're playing him at 7-7. He's already a fantastic play. It's only going to look better if Bane and Morant sit. So I think he's an awesome play tonight. Santi Aldama is completely fine in all formats. I talked about GG Jackson. Other than I do think GG Jackson is better at small forward than power forward. Same thing with Keldon Johnson. But really, your primary guys are going to be Giannis, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Santi Aldama.
All right. Will, how about you? Who do you like power forward?
Giannis, and more Giannis. That's where I'm playing him tonight. Definitely not playing him at center. I might go ahead and just play Jaren Jackson Jr. and plug him in my forward spot, honestly, because he's the one guy that I don't think is going to sit. And I think one of Bane or Ja is sitting regardless. Does that make any sense? Like, I think I'm just going to do that. And so he's my next guy, power forward, that I really like. I know I mentioned, Tobias Harris. He is 5,700 on DraftKings. If you wanted to do that, Santi Aldama, 5,400, who would absolutely pick up big minutes if those other guys sat. So I don't hate that. So yeah, we saw Asar Thompson. He should be all right against Brooklyn today. You can get Dylan Brooks at power forward also. Just an odd collection of guys as we get further down here.
All right, take me to center.
Moses Brown, that's my guy. Now that we got this PJ Washington information, I'm going to play him. Still think that Brook Lopez is a great play tonight. Still think that Zach Edey is a good play tonight. But I will say, man, these 8 to 8:30 games kind of have us hemmed up because Post is kind of a news play also. And so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I think I'm just going to plug in Quentin Post in my utility spot. And then if Ja and Bane are out, I'll just swap him to Pippen. Does that make any sense? Like, I think that's what I'm going to do. I could easily just put Pippen in where Killian Hayes is right now, also in my build, and get even more flexible. But maybe I end up doing that. Maybe I end up just playing Post in my utility and putting Scottie Pippen in my point guard slot. And then I'm losing some flexibility because I'll have to make some changes, but just kind of make sure I have Triple J in there, and that'll give me some flexibility if I need to move some salary around. So either way, I know I'm kind of talking, I'm processing this as we have 7 minutes left, but I think that's what I'm going to do. But Moses Brown is my guy. Definitely still like Lopez. Şengün is fine. Post, but Brown is my guy.
Tim, DK Cash, who you playing, and then who else do you like for tournaments?
Yeah, Cash, it's probably going to be Zach Edey. I do like Post as a GPP pivot. Şengün is definitely going to be my spend up center. If I do spend up at center, it would be him. I think where'd he go? Oh, Brook Lopez at 5,700 is a really, really strong play. We talked about him. He's not going to be, I don't think he'll be over 10% in GPPs. So I do like Brook Lopez quite a bit tonight.
All right, let's start getting into some questions. Discord's pretty quiet right now, but we do have one from Alexander the Dawn, Tim, and he wants to know what the DK Cash core is. But the problem is he's in a loud pub. He can't hear. So you say him out loud. Give me your guard, forward, center, whatever your cash core is, and then I'll type it into the Discord.
All right, I'd go Giannis, Oubre, I'd probably go Edey. And Jaren Jackson Jr.
All right, then. If Morant is out, we'll add Scottie Pippen to the list as well. If Morant is out, add. There. We got it in. Switching over to the YouTube chat. Chris Longo wants to know who is not fantasy points. Who's the highest raw point scorer tonight? I think my call is going to be Kyrie Irving. What about you, Will? Who do you think is scoring the most raw points tonight?
I actually think it's Giannis. Give me Cade Cunningham now.
All right, Tim, how about you? Raw points. Who's scoring the most?
I'm going to go with Giannis.
Tim, you okay with playing Lopez and Giannis in the same lineup?
Absolutely. In GPPs, that's fine.
What do you think of Nick Claxton in a GPP tonight, Will?
Nope.
QQ for Tim. If Bane and Morant are both out, say Kennard too, because Darren Unger wants to know if they're all out. who are the 4 guys in a FanDuel lineup you would be making sure that you're playing?
Scottie Pippen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Zach Edey. Probably it's going to be either Santi Aldama or GG Jackson. Those would probably be the or Wells, right? I mean, but bottom line is, if Bane and Moran are out, you are already playing 4 in cash on FanDuel.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I'd probably play 4 in all of my tournament lineups as well. Like I'd set a rule and just go load up for 4. You play Pippen and Triple J for sure, and then you mix and match those other 2 guys around. All right, we got a lot to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers for some reason. But scrolling up here, what do you think about Jalen Green in GPPs, Will?
Oh, yeah, I don't hate that at all. Don't hate Green.
I want to get both of your thoughts on this because we've had quite a few questions about it. In a GPP flyer, what do you think about $3,600 Jonas Valanciunas in tournaments?
I don't really like that much.
Will, would you consider it?
No.
In 150, I don't think it's super crazy just because JV sometimes only needs 12 minutes to get 25 fantasy points. And at that super cheap price tag, I think it's maybe viable in 150. Will, what do you think about Steph Curry tonight?
I think it's fine.
We had a question. Fine. I lost the question. Love Brolo, a little bit of Brolo talk. We all love some Brolo tonight. We know that Will's answer is Cade, but Butthole wants to know, Tim, Cade or Curry on DraftKings tonight?
Between those 2, I think I'd go Cade.
Is Aldama, Triple J, and Edey too much Memphis for one team? No, absolutely not. Believe it or not, if we get John Bain out, that's not enough Memphis on one team. You're going to want even more than that. Let's see.
We got a question from Jim. Thoughts on Jalen Wilson for value? I don't like that play really at all. I don't like building into that first game. I think you could do better later on.
Exact same response for Downey Watson's question right after. Do you think shooting guard's weak enough that you could go to Schroeder at 3,900? Like, you could, and if the Memphis news breaks, maybe both Morant and Bane play, and then the Memphis value is not as good. But personally, I wouldn't be taking any shots like that in the first game. Like Hayes and Cunningham would really be the only players I'd be considering at all. Best DK cash play, $6,200 and cheaper. They already have Oubre. Who you playing in the utility DK cash, Tim?
It's a pretty bad pricing zone for cash games.
Best projected guy is 800 cheaper, but it's Aldama.
That's what I was just gonna say. Is Santi Aldama is probably the best play there, and spend up somewhere else.
I do think Podsy is totally fine. He's been playing more minutes, and then if Jimmy Butler is out, you get a little bit of a bump for him. But I still don't really think there's anything wrong with going all the way down to Aldama, and then you have that flexibility if there's more news that drops there.
I don't like my build because I'm building for the future, and I had to kind of just do some sacrificing. But it is what it is. It'll be all right.
Best cheap center on GPP on DraftKings, it's definitely Zach Edey right now. Will, who do you think's breaking the slate tonight? I think I know the answer.
Cade Cunningham.
Cade Cunningham. Tim, how about you? Who's breaking the slate tonight?
I'll do one chalky one and one not so chalky one. And my chalky one's Jaren Jackson Jr. and my contrarian one is Brook Lopez.
That was gonna be my contrarian one too. I wanted to go Giannis and Lopez, but I like that call. I think those Bucks guys are gonna be smashing it today. I want to load up on. I don't think it's crazy to just play 2 games tonight. I don't think it's crazy to do San Antonio and Memphis and Dallas and Milwaukee and just ignore all the other games on the slate. We have hit lock. Watched it be, John Morant and Desmond Bane news come in 1 minute later now, which as long as it goes my way, I'm good with it. If it doesn't go my way, I'm going to be pissed we didn't get that before lock. So that's where I'm at right now. Good luck tonight. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back for some more NBA Crunch Time tomorrow on Sunday. I believe it starts an hour earlier, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Smash the like button on your way out. And on behalf of myself, Tim, and Will, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.